Today, we are going to practice two things. We are going to practice the difference between recall and remember, and we're going to practice using the word fade. Fade is a useful word that means changing from strong to weak. Many things go from strong to weak. The phone signal is fading. It was strong, now it's becoming weak. The summer is fading. The very hot days of summer are finished, and now it is getting cooler. My memory is fading. My memory used to be strong, now it isn't very strong. Speaking of memory, did you know that we have two words for remember? If you answered no, don't worry. We are going to practice using both of them today. The other word that you can use for remember is recall. You can almost always use them both in the same way, but recall does have an extra meaning, and we are going to practice this difference today. Recall can be used to show that you are making an effort to try and remember something. Using recall can sometimes mean you are concentrating and working hard to remember. Let's practice using both of them and see how they are different. Here is a situation. Mary wants to watch a movie that she really enjoyed when she was younger. Let's make a sentence with these words. She can remember the name of the movie. She can, she cannot, she can't remember the name of the movie. The word remember can sound passive. She isn't concentrating. She isn't trying very hard to remember the name. Let's use the verb recall. Make it sound like she is trying hard. She's concentrating. She's working hard to remember. She can't. She can't recall. She can't recall the name of the movie. Let's make a why not question. Why not? Why can't she? Why can't she? Why can't she? Why can't she recall the name? Why can't she recall the name of the name of the? Why can't she recall the name of the? Why can't she recall the name of the movie? Here is the reason. Her memory is going from strong to weak. Maybe it's weaker because it was a long time ago, but her memory is fading. It's going from strong to weak. She can't remember the name of the movie. She can't recall the name of the movie because her memory is fading. She can't recall the name of the movie because her memory is fading. Okay, here's another situation. John is giving the details to the police about a car accident that he saw. The police wanted to know the color of the car that drove away. Let's make a sentence with these words. He no remember the color of the car. How will you make a sentence with that idea? He no remember. He doesn't remember. He does not remember. He doesn't remember. He does not remember. He doesn't remember the color of the car. The color of the car. He doesn't remember the color of the car. Now the word remember doesn't sound very strong. If you want to make it sound like he is thinking, like he's concentrating, but it's not coming to him, you can use recall. Let's change the sentence. He doesn't recall the color of the car. Let's make a why not question. Why not? Why doesn't? Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he remember? Why doesn't he remember the color of the car? Why doesn't he remember the color of the car? Here is the reason. His memory is going from strong to weak. Maybe it happened a long time ago. When it's recent, you remember it very clearly, but as time passes, that memory becomes very weak. His memory is fading. He doesn't recall. He doesn't recall the color of the car because his memory is fading. Because his because his memory is fading. He doesn't recall the color of the car because his memory is fading. Okay, here's another situation. When Lucy smells a particular flower, she remembers her childhood. Let's use recall and see how it changes the idea. She recalls her childhood. She recalls her childhood. Remember is usually more passive. Smell a flower. Ah, childhood. That's it. That's all you get. But if you say she recalls her childhood, then we can imagine she remembers some details. She remembers people. She remembers situations. She remembers places. She smells a particular flower and she recalls her childhood. It's not just, oh, childhood. It's, oh, I remember being in this place. I remember seeing this person. It's very specific, very active kind of memory. Now here's a problem. She no remember the name of the flower. She remembers the smell. She no remember the name of the flower. Make a sentence with that information. She does not. She doesn't remember the name of the flower. She doesn't remember the name of the flower. Let's make a why not question. Why not? Why doesn't she? Why doesn't she remember? Why doesn't she remember? Why doesn't she remember the name? Why doesn't she remember the name of the flower? Why doesn't she remember the name of the flower? Okay, let's say, here's the answer. Her memory is going from strong to weak. Her memory is fading. Her memory is fading. She doesn't remember the name of the flower because her memory is fading. Because her memory is fading. She doesn't remember the name of the flower because her memory is fading. Let's use recall. She doesn't recall the name of the flower. Let me think. What is the name? Oh, I'm trying so hard, but I can't remember. I don't recall. She doesn't recall the name of the flower because her memory is fading. Okay, here's one more situation. Mike wanted to call his friend, but he couldn't think of the phone number. Let's make a sentence with these words. He no could remember phone number. Make a sentence with that information. He could not. He couldn't remember the phone number. He couldn't remember the phone number. Let's change this sentence using recall, which could make it sound like he's concentrating and trying to make an effort to remember the phone number. He couldn't. He couldn't recall. He couldn't recall the phone number. Now let's make a why not question. Why couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Why couldn't he? Why couldn't he? Why couldn't he recall the phone number? Why couldn't he recall the phone number? And here's the reason. His memory is going from strong to weak. His memory is fading. He couldn't remember the phone. He couldn't recall the phone number because his memory is fading. He couldn't recall the phone number because his memory is fading. All right, you did an amazing job today, and you practiced some fantastic English. Congratulations! I knew you could do it. Remember, practice makes perfect, so you should repeat this exercise several times, not just so that you can remember how to use these words and phrases, but also to improve your listening and speaking skills. It's been really fun practicing English with you today, and I hope to see you again soon. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to press the like button. See you in the next video with more interesting words and phrases.